This meeting is being recorded.
All right, welcome everyone to the Halloween edition of Carlentini, Omaha, and beyond. So we talk about genealogy, history, culture, food, literature. Tonight, we're going to talk about a book. We have the wonderful author Juicy Shiaka with us. We're gonna do a quick discussion of genealogy, and Kathy, I don't know, Kathy Boulay, we're gonna focus on you for just a moment here.
Okay.
What is your schedule for tonight? I know Sheila asked to go first, but I was hoping that maybe we could kind of keep it fairly brief.
Yeah, we can keep it brief. I just need to be, it's 2:00 here. I need to probably be wrapping it up by 3:30.
Okay. So let me do this. We'll start by sharing my screen.
Okay.
And we were talking about Vita's tree with her Girardi, and she's named after her grandmother. But let's go and pull up Kathy Boulay. I think it's under Kathleen.
No.
Right.
Well, that's my my maiden name is Fusionero. Is that what you're asking?
I'm trying to remember how I put it in.
It might be Catherine.
Catherine.
Yeah, Kathryn.
There you
There
are.
you go.
Catherine Lynn.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the same as our granddaughter. So I found this cute little picture of Kathy.
Okay.
Catherine L. Fucinaro to Mary, September 24th. This was in 1983.
Yep.
You were a graduate of Creighton University, and you were married at the St. John's Catholic Church. You were a nurse at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, and your husband was an accountant at Deloitte Haskins and Sells. So this is kind of cool because it gives us a little bio on you, but why don't you bring it up to date, Kathy, and tell us about yourself?
I was in nursing. I took some time off after our third was born, and then I re-entered when our fourth was like in 5th grade, and I did some outpatient stuff. I did a nursing home. I worked with little boy in his home because I used to be a pediatric nurse. And at the same time, my husband left accounting. He went from Deloitte to Arthur Young to another small firm, and then he was ended up working at Lutz, and then he bought a business, Pella, and that's what he's been doing ever since. We have 4 kids. Our youngest is 26. We're grandparents. Our 3 older ones are married. We're grandparents to 7 grandchildren, and I'm a stay-at-home mom now. And my both parents were Italian. They're both deceased. My dad, Tony Fusionero, was his parents came from Alvito in Italy and around Rome. And my mom's parents came from Carlentini. And they both married in Carlentini and then came over when their youngest or their oldest was 2 years old, and my mom's was the youngest. So we're supposed to be going to Carlentini. We're actually going on a cruise, but for the first 3 days, we're going to Carlentini next April. And I was hoping to maybe, hook up with some relatives, maybe, possibly. I don't know. We went to Alvito back in 2007, took my parents, and we were able to meet some of his relatives, which was awesome. Yeah, like what's coming up here now, Antonia Iagoboni, that was my grandma, my dad's mom.
I think that should be an I, not an L.
Yeah, it should be an I. Mhm. So, yeah.
I'm
that's it.
glad, I'm glad to see that Susan Finley's on, and Eleonora, I know you're listening while you're doing other things. I didn't know if you guys, especially Susan, I know you've got some shared relative names. If you guys have already found some of possibly relation in Carlentini. Susan, I was thinking you ran into some relatives and when you went on one of your last trips.
Well, you're talking about Franco's, and I was looking at Luciano Franco.
Right.
We only have approximations on his birth and death dates, so that would be good to kind of actually figure out his.
Yeah, they should have all of that because I gave her one. I gave her a book.
Well, Susan, she has the Francos. We met a lot of Francos in Carlentini.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you here?
Yes, I am.
So you might be related if the same, if we're talking about the same branch of Francos.
Well, I'm trying to figure out who Luciano Franco was. I think he was my great grandmother Giovanni Franco's brother. I think that's a relation to Larry Tremino. Nick, he's on, I think he does the one calls in that, not our
Right.
call, but the other one in that. I think that was his great grandfather who has a very, but that's not the name of the person that's is married to him in that. That was a Salerno.
I think we just need to do some basic genealogy here. And okay, Mariana Franco was born in 1889.
Mhm.
So
That was
the parents, Luciano and Concetta, were probably married sometime prior to that. Unless, no, wait a minute.
And I think
We-
Kathy has a lot of that.
I do. I have all of that. I have all of that in a binder. Which is so awesome. But I was hoping to find living relatives when we go.
And I
Well,
think
see,
that's what they're looking for.
That's
It to
what I'm
take that
trying to
branch
do
down.
for you here, Kathy, because in order to get to the living relatives, in my case, I had to take it out to the second great grandparent level. So
Okay.
this is a parent, this is a grandparent, this is a great grandparent. So we need to fill in all these boxes here probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
before
the
we can
best
start
way to
finding
find
living
them.
relatives.
The best way to find alive relatives is to complete what Nick was saying, and then as soon as he will add, seeing that Nick, Dean, and Jim together, they have uploaded so many family trees, you will start having the matches. So we can get closer to the right branch of the family because there are a lot of homonymies, and then we can share on Facebook. We have a lot of groups. Among them, the most the one that we mostly use is called the Sei di Carlentini Sei, where there are 6,000 people, maybe more. And as soon as we need something, we put a post on Facebook. And then people, they answer. So this could be a first approach.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And
The
it's
group that she's talking about, Sei di Carlentini Sei, is one where I've done a fair amount of posting based on well, okay, so you can search the group here. And if you search Nick Chimino, you can see my group activity.
Mhm.
So here's an example, a family photo. There was a
if you have
visit where
pictures, it works better.
somebody went. But for like this one here, Sebastiano Canelia, and you are related to the Canelias, by the way.
The Caniglias?
Yes. I found that one of the siblings was married to a Canelia. So it's Canelia in Italia and it's Caniglia in Omaha.
Okay.
These are examples of posts that I've done, and then I get responses from people telling me who these people are related to, and
Wow.
and then we've been able to connect. And for example, this one was for Tommy, Tommy Lamantia. He put the no in there, I guess, because he's a grandpa.
Yeah.
And Saira, the lady who post the comment is my math teacher at the high school.
Was my teacher too, Juicy.
I mean, we all know each other, so it's very easy to connect. I mean, it would just, and the surnames are all the same. They
Wow.
keep,
Yeah. That's
Ciao
true.
ragazzi, ciao a tutti.
So,
Silvana,
Guarda, stiamo
So-
cercando
so what
Franco.
I'm going to ask at this point, Kathy, is that maybe we can do some offline genealogy. I'll try to get what I can from Dean, or, if you have stuff, if you could take pictures or scan it or what have you, so that I can see what you have, it
Okay.
would speed up the process immeasurably.
Okay.
Agree, Kim.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Kathy, are you here in Omaha?
I am.
I think we've got some, I guess our fathers were good friends. My dad was Arnie Smith.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So my
Ah.
family and I are planning to go to Sicily or Italy next January. So I would really like to touch base with you.
Oh, I would
and
love to.
that would be great for the two of us.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
It's
So
growing.
you guys can use the chat to message each other.
Okay,
If you want to give each other email addresses or phone
that
numbers,
would be
what have you.
great.
And
I'm not very
can
good at
call it-
technology, so
Well, I
bear
was
with
just gonna
me.
say I kind of have the same problem. Um,
I'll
So-
help you,
I mean, if
Kathy.
you're willing to
Okay.
share it, this is being recorded.
No,
So
I'm willing to, for all who are concerned, it's learcho@yahoo.com. And like I said,
so
we're,
I'm gonna type that for everyone then.
okay, great.
LEARCHO
LEARCHO@yahoo.com.
Yahoo.
And our my youngest sister has started Ancestry, so we're not to the point, and I'm gonna get her on the next time so that she can be at least my computer person, because
That's
don't
great.
know what I'm doing.
I know.
Both of you, just so you know, on the bottom of your screen, if you move your mouse, you'll see a little chat icon
Yeah, I
pop.
see that.
If
Yeah.
you click that, you'll see the chat information on the side.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, but my family are my nana was a Fedoni. My dad's natural father was a Zarbano, and I know that my nana's mother was a Scamperino. But I'll get Carmen working on what to do with getting you guys looping us in the ancestry portion of it.
Okay, so we have 24
Clementine.
participants, and I think most of you are here to hear Juicy, so I'm going to turn it over to Juicy.
Great.
I am going to share my screen because she sent me a ton of pictures. But I am also going to ask everyone to mute their microphones. That would save me having to mute you while Juicy's talking. If you have a question, put it in the chat log, please, and I will relay it to Juicy. And then if we need explanation from you, I will ask you to unmute. Okay?
Can I say in Italian for Silvana? Silvana, stai seguendo?
Sì, ho capito che devo lasciare spento il microfono.
Sì, se ci sono delle domande le mettiamo nella chat. Adesso Giussi racconta del suo libro. Giussi, sometimes just switch in
Ok.
Italian a little bit for Silvana. Un bacio.
So Eleonora, if you don't mind typing it into the chat log for Silvana instead of talking. No?
No, I
Okay.
can't. I'm with my phone and I'm making stuff. So Silvana, she will practice
Okay,
English.
so Juicy can do that. Why don't
Yes.
you just do what you need to do and let Juicy, when she
Type
needs to
now.
talk Italian, she'll talk Italian, and when she needs to talk English, she'll talk English.
I will randomly, translate. Yes.
Okay. Everybody, I'm seeing lots of good red dots here, so thank you all for cooperating, because we want to hear from Juicy. So Juicy, take it away, and I will
Well,
start sharing.
it's very weird for me because I am a member of, like, being interviewed by, so to say, strangers, but not by friends. We have spent quite a lot of time together online and while in Omaha, so it's quite weird. But thank you for the invitation and for giving me this opportunity to share what my passion is, that is history, let's say, and especially Mediterranean and Sicilian history. And I'm not an academic. I lost that chance, because at that time in Catania I could have had the chance, but they were not paying, so so okay, I have to go, I have to leave. So I just kept on studying and reading, because Sicily is really, it's not just because we do belong to that, to our mother island, but it's really the parliament of culture, of the Western culture, and whatever is studied abroad or around the world was actually rooted or interested anyway and impacted Sicily, and so that's a fact. And this novel is so definitely rooted in our island and in our places. So because I had already heard about this, an historical fact that took place at the beginning of last century in Lentini. Consider Lentini and Carlentini being so interconnected that I rarely make a difference between the two places. And this fact was belonged actually to an important page of Italian history, and it was about I'll tell you something about the context. So we're at the beginning of last century. It is exactly the same time, so around, our relatives and ancestors were probably living those years, just a bit before the First World War. And the novel is set between 1917 and 1922. It's a great period of transformation in the world in general, but in Italy and in Sicily as well. On one hand, soon after the First World War, it was poverty wherever. Sicily was so poor, especially our area. And there was a huge difference between nobles, aristocratic families, and the rest of population. It was more than three quarters of population. So there's this big, let's say, juxtaposition, how would you say, Nick, as sort of a dichotomy, let's say, between landowners that were noble, and the biggest family was Beneventano in Lentini, but it was one of the most powerful families in all Eastern Sicily. So not just they were from Lentini, Carlentini, but they were very powerful. And on the other hand, were how do you say, contadini, hand workers,
Farmers.
farmers, and land workers.
Neighbors, mhm.
I mean, but not owners. They just daily workers. And this is the period when they actually tried to somehow to coalesce, so to form, to gather together in unions and trying somehow to get their rights. So it's a very intense moment: rebellion, repression, violence, and blood. At the same time, the right forces, so to say, Mussolini, fascism, takes over. And that's why it was a very intense moment. And the national attention was, I mean, believe it or not, because Lentini was still like a point in the universe, and it's not a big city, but the Italian, so national attention focused on our area, because it was so-called like the Russian Republic, because I mean, our people were so strong, so revolutionary, and that they were somehow catching attention from national politicians. And anyway, I mean, this fact was somehow, let's say, forgotten, and I had heard about it, and I just wanted to bring it back. I mean, and somehow to remove some dust from papers. And so that's it. And the main character, so everything is true, and it's, well, the outcome of research, archives, and whatever. The only thing that is fiction, and that is definitely imagined, is the main protagonist. She's a woman, and between these two opposites, and between two men that represent both, I mean, the noble part, because she has a story, let's say, sort of a compromise story with the son of Barone Beneventano, and on the other hand, she's in love, and she's totally attracted, I mean, ideologically speaking and physically, by the main unionist of that time. Both characters were really existing. So the only element of, I mean, fantasy is the woman, because I mean, you need, that's how an historical novel is usually made of. I mean, so everything is, every single fact is true, and it's
Giusy,
just
you can go deeper because they cannot read it. So you can go deeper in the details and tell us the story. Like, as long as you don't translate it in English, they are not able to read it.
I mean, the story is that there's this woman, she's from Catania, and she belonged to a noble family, but due to, so to say, a youth mistake, because she had a baby from, so to say, a poor guy, she was rejected by her family. So she was actually in disgrace. So, and she was refused. And at that time, probably even now, but things, I mean, times are changing somehow. But at that time, a woman who was rejected by the family and without a man was actually invisible for the society. That's what her best friend, Eleonora, because it's true. I mean, I thought about you when I named her. Her best friend.
I can say, I really appreciate it.
Eleonora suggested her. I mean, and she said, it's not bad. It's you need to live somehow, and you need to live in a proper way, because you are a noble, you have a noble blood, so you cannot just survive. You need to live in a proper way. That's why, I mean, she introduced her to Baronello, that is the first son of Barone Beneventano, who was well known for being, so to say, very vulnerable to the beautiful women. And so he actually offers her the opportunity to have a house and to have whatever she might need and in Lentini. So, and she accepts that she will have an apartment in the main square in Lentini, and while he's living in his palace, and that is the one that Nick is showing here with the Famiglia Beneventano. So he keeps having his life, but I mean, how it is not something unusual. I mean, that's something that has always happened. I mean, noble people had, their parallel, they have lovers, whatever. And when
Did she keep the child?
Excuse me?
Did she keep the child?
No, she was forced to give, she was forced to give birth to the child that was a girl. She just saw her for a couple of probably minutes. She just noticed a very small detail that she will be searching for life. And
at the time, the interruption of the pregnancy was not even permitted. Doctors were not able to do it, and those who used to do it, maybe they could die. So she gave birth to a little girl, and she saw this little detail that Juicy is saying. That is a detail that Juicy's daughters has got. So now I'm spoiling something. And
it's a little
it's a little come si dice neo? Mole here under the lips. And she saw the little baby, this little girl, just a couple of seconds, and then the family took her from her, and she never saw her daughter again.
And they gave us an amount of money to the guy who was actually her driver, and they just, they made them both disappear, so that the honor was saved. And so this is actually the premise, see
Yes.
And so Amelia, that's the name of the lady, when she gets in Lentini, she finds completely another world, because at that time, consider that Catania, like Palermo, like Napoli, they were sort of like Paris. Then consider really there were beautiful palaces, buildings, cafe.
Giusy, non ti
So
sentiamo
when
più.
she got to Lar, but it was and restricted rural reality, but it was just apparently so to say not moving, because she will find out that actually these men that Nick is showing, despite being illiterate, they had such a power, such a passion, that they were able to fight for their rights. And that's in Lentini. Then she will meet actually the head of the unionists, the man who was coordinating all the workers, and she just fell in love. So this is the development of the book. She needs to find her way between the old vision of herself, that is so aristocratic, noble, and an old world that was actually cracking, and the new world that was already very modern And one of her best friend is Enza. And this is a character I really wanted in the book, because Enza is one of the workers she's a unionist and she's lesbian. And she's living, because I mean, I'm sure there were homosexual relationships even at that time, and she's living very romantic story with another woman that is married, and their love is probably so pure and, so to say, eternal. But every single, it's the story of a community. Actually, that's what I wanted to narrate. I mean, through Amelia, she's the main character, but I wanted to tell the story of the whole community, how because I belong to them, how we developed. And there's also reason why, I mean, I feel so to say, torn between the two parts, because and the book is dedicated to my family, who every day they fought for that land, because from my father's side they belonged to the landowners, and from mother's side they were from Carlentini. They belonged to, I mean, the unionists. So this story through the generations has always been told, and they still keep fighting home, like, because your grandfather did this and we were there with forks and fighting. And so that about but both sides were very they had their own reason to fight for the same land, for the campagna, how we say, I mean, for oranges. That's because in Lentini and Carlentini, everybody.
Giusy, we lost you.
Every family has what we call a giardino, which is not a garden. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, go back. It goes back and
Sì,
forward.
Ele?
It's not. È un po', la connessione è un po' traballante. Però ti stiamo seguendo. E poi se ci racconta anche l'episodio proprio in sé, di quando le persone furono ammazzate in piazza. Giusto?
Esatto. So the start and the fact that, sì, mi senti? The historical fact that I was that I wanted to investigate somehow a bit more is the introduction to the book, and because it was so true. What happened? So in the middle of the square, main square in Lentini, soon after there was a manifestation, and Maria Giudice, who was a very famous at that time,
I think it's better to say a strike. Like they were complaining and fighting. Right.
Exactly. See, no, in fact, that strike is the right word. And this strike was coordinated by this very strong woman. And well, soon after that, while people were just going home, from the balconies of the square, people started to shoot. And there was such a mess. And people did not realize if it was the police, the king police at that time, or if it were the nobles, the aristocratic families. Well, probably they were together. They agreed on that. So they just tried, from the balconies to the square, they just started to shoot people, and poor people, of course. And there is, a list of people who died. So from that fact, which was somehow covered, and we still don't know how many women, but it was our people, and they were young. And then, I mean, it is a very sad page of our history. And so from that fact, I wanted to start the book. And yesterday I sent a lot of pictures to Nick, just to give you an idea. I mean, when you talk about this, or you tell the story, then, and yeah, exactly, this is the view and from Amelia's balcony. This is the main square in Lentini, you probably know. And this is an ordinary daily morning in Lentini at that time. So I mean, you can see, I mean, no particular luxury clothes, or so it's very, very humble. You can see from people, that was a sort of a market.
Also says mercado or market.
This is Piazzetta Bellini. Okay, now you're back. Go.
Okay, this is the back. And you know, I mean, for those I mean, who know Lentini, this is really, it was very lively at that time. Lots of markets. And here, like, so she was living in one of these buildings. And this we have, there is the market, and just as you see the picture that way, it is the pescheria, the fish market. Which
At the bottom, yeah, in the middle. And on the right is the Piazza Bellini.
If you see it, I mean, the picture onwards, then you see that this is the fish market, and it was very picturesque. Nowadays, it is, so to say, exhibition place. It is, I mean, it was somehow restored, and it is currently used for cultural events and exhibitions,
conferences. Yes.
Exactly. This is the old entrance. I mean, you see, I mean, it looks like Beirut, actually, under bombs. But well, this was the old entrance in Lentini, coming from, I mean, imagine you have Etna at your shoulders, behind your shoulders. So just for those, I mean, who know the place, Eleonora and Silvana.
Siamo alla Compagnia della Bellezza, dove c'è la casa, la fabbrica del ghiaccio.
Ah,
ghiaccio, esattamente.
Sì, perché quando io ero piccola, per esempio, mio papà aveva la campagna per la strada per andare verso Catania. E non esisteva Luzio, non esisteva nulla. Praticamente già quella strada ci sono delle case che adesso sono al centro del paese, che allora sembravano completamente fuori. Quando finisci giù ti devo raccontare un fatto che è accaduto negli anni 70 e che forse neanche voi conoscete. Ci puoi trarre anche un libro. Poi te lo racconto. Ve lo
So
racconto
let's say
dopo.
that
Quando tu
today, in that corner on the left where there is that car parked, in that corner today there is a guy selling almonds, pistachios, hazelnut, and then after that there is Cafe Mocambo on the left. And on the right, there is a gas station. So we are now it's part of the city center. The city has grown and developed so much. Which year do you think questo può essere? Che anni? Gli anni 20?
Late 20s. This picture is
forse
late
anche
20s.
prima, sicuramente.
No, perché c'è la macchina.
There is the car, yeah.
And there's the car. And I mean, that, you see, I mean, this sort of, this painting is actually made with Cartagirone ceramic. And it was called Porta San Cristoforo.
What year did you say?
It doesn't exist anymore.
Late 20s. Late 20s. No, it doesn't exist anymore.
No, but I mean, now it is definitely more modern, but at that time that was the main entrance. I mean, coming from Catania. I mean, looks terrible, you know.
Yes, it looks. That's what Amelia, might see in your imagination.
Exactly.
So when we will transform your book into a movie, we will recreate
Hopefully-
this in Cinecittà, correct? Or in
Hopefully.
Hollywood.
By
in Los
the way, well, I have a proposal for Nick. You might like that. You know, I post something about I Leoni di Sicilia, right? The
The
Florida.
lion. Mhm.
Well, we could actually, if there are some people interested, we can actually have a focus on that. That would be great. Because, I mean,
Possiamo proporlo a Michael Cavalieri che ci sta un
I
bel
haven't seen it
documentario.
so far. Yeah, Michael could be another person that I would love to involve too.
Vero.
Sì.
Let's see. I mean, then there are other pictures, right?
Oh, yes.
And this is
Yes.
still, so this is again the main square of in Lentini is very long.
Ah,
And there are actually two squares together. We saw before the one facing the church. This is just to the right.
Susan Finlay. You look at the round, you go on the right with your eyes. Over there, there is the pharmacy where we were when
Right.
you were here. Okay. And then the top of that nice big wall with the little terrace and the columns and the trees. That's the house of your relatives.
Right.
Sue?
The
That's they are
Bonfiglios.
selling and they don't. I mean, are we recording? Yeah, we're recording. So yeah, that's
Susan,
we know
that
that.
Because we
That-
went to that house, yes. But
Really?
well, we could not get inside. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 different places. I assume they were nobility in that. She said the house was beautifully decorated inside with beautiful furniture. And Giovanni's father was there by himself with a caregiver. And
That's
someone
always
came
the
in.
the Francos, right?
Well, Marinella Catalano is from the Francos, and
Catalano.
she
Mhm.
married Giovanni Bonfiglio.
Giovanni Bonfiglio.
Perché è il marito di Marinelli,
And
lei di origini
they went
nobili,
into the
diciamo
house
la
and they
verità.
stole all the
Podestà
furniture in the
proprio.
house. And that.
Bonfiglio erano...
For
Eh,
those who
eh,
haven't
Took us
understood the
inside,
corner,
but she said she didn't have the keys and that, but she said she can't get rid of the property because no one wants to buy it, which is, you know, such a shame because it must have such history to it. I was going to ask you, Juicy, if there's anything available to read about their family and the houses there.
About the houses? No, well, Giovanni himself told me something because I told you
Right, yes.
we're friends, but he used to be my Italian literature teacher. But I mean, it's beautiful still. I mean, you see, I mean, that beautiful terrace with that vegetation over the main
Right.
street. But I mean, they were
And
a noble family.
On the left, there is the Church of San Talfio for those who are familiar with the square. So we can see the last tiny part of the building close to the church on the left.
And in the middle, this is typical of towns and cities of southern Italy. Palco della musica. So it's a music stage. It was a stationary and made by artisans it is very and how do you say carved iron.
Yeah, handmade. There is one
very Liberty style.
there is still one surviving in Scicli that is there where they have filmed the Inspector Montalbano. Scicli, SCICLI.
Ce n'era uno anche a Carlentini dentro la Villa Belvedere.
Ma adesso
in
uno
più-
che sopravvive è a Scicli, per esempio, poi non ce ne sono tanti.
Però a Carlentini è rimasta quella forma
Hey,
rotonda,
ladies,
non so se l'avete
and
notata.
can we let Juicy just continue and have fewer interruptions, please?
Yeah.
And well, it was very romantic, so to say, image, because if you think that I mean, it was stationary with the orchestra of the town that was playing. I found all the registers with the names and daily pay. So it was something, I mean, so sort of a free entertainment. So imagine this square people, I mean, well dressed, I mean the nobles of course, well dressed, and music playing, and well, it was another world, so to say, and it's well, something we can, I mean, I still dream of. So and this no longer exists, unfortunately. But I mean, one, as Eleonora said, is in Scicli, and I don't know if there's something in Catania, Villa Bellini. I think that
Palermo for sure.
This is
Catania
another
too.
corner of this is another corner of the square. This is exactly where Sant'Alfio is usually, so to say, placed, facing the church, and so to say, enjoying fireworks during the festa of Sant'Alfio. Because I mean, during in the book, I keep on talking about the festa of Sant'Alfio, and this is something you should actually take part at once in your life. I mean, it is definitely worth it. And so the two bars, so the two cafes that were very popular at that time this is Caffè Savoia, and the other one, Nick, maybe you can go to that picture, was a Caffè Trieste. This one, for those who have been in Lentini, I'm sure you have had gelato or granita at Navarria. Well, that is, nowadays it is Navarria, but it was a Caffè Trieste. So this place has always been a bar. And here, I mean, I said one of the most beautiful scenes, I mean, in my opinion, because it's where Amelia is sitting on her own and having a coffee. And you can imagine at that time a woman alone on her own sitting in a bar. I mean, people looked at her like she was an alien or a prostitute, because I mean, one or the other. But she came from Catania, so she was used to that. It was not in Lentini, it was a scandal. Like, that's why, I mean, her arrival in Lentini was noticed, because I mean, she was so to say very emancipated, and everybody knew why she was there, because I mean, they knew the Barone Beneventano. And this is via Conte Alaimo, and still it is one of the main road coming from the square. And this is one of the I mentioned before the cafe in Catania. This is Caffè Laurenti. No, this is Caffè. I told you the caption. I guess it is Caffè San Giorgi, maybe. Because
Took me a
I'm
minute to
using...
scroll up to it to get the caption. We did that one. So yeah, we did that one. Okay, most important bars at the time, crucial scenes are set here. Cafe Trieste is nowadays Bar Navarria. And then
No, but the other one is Caffè San Giorgi, because it was the cafe just opposite one of the main theater in Catania, still working.
Oh, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Pictures of beautiful Liberty Cafe in Catania.
Unfortunately, I mean, nothing of this is remained. I mean, very few Liberty style buildings remain. You see, I mean, everything was like leaves and palms and very sort of, to say, Oriental style. And the other picture, and so this is the Teatro San Giorgi. So, but this is still working. This is still there, and it is still one of the historical theater in Catania. And the previous picture is the bar that people use when going to the theater. And you know, one of the other beautiful cafe that is in Piazza Stesicoro, and I know that there is a picture of people from Omaha, including my cousin Sarah.
I left them 5 minutes alone and they went straight to McDonald's.
McDonald's. Exactly, because they were looking for iced tea. Well, this is, I mean, long story short. Well, that beautiful Liberty Cafe is nowadays a McDonald's, and it's very sad.
Oh no.
And I mean, there's this picture of my cousin Sarah looking for iced tea. She was disappointed anyway, and with Mary Lou and all the crew. And I mean, they just outside this bar, and I said, oh God, that was one of the most beautiful cafe in Catania. Now it's a McDonald's.
But
I mean,
it was too expensive to be renovated, so they were the only ones who were able to do it. And money they count, so now they manage it. Yeah,
and that's Mellow
happens.
everywhere. But anyway, and then I mean, at that time Catania was very rich, and people from abroad invested money in Catania. That's why they have one of the most important patisserie, so to say, pastries shop was Cavitzel, and of course, or the other one was Kaflisch, and they were Swiss, so they came on purpose, and they started their own business. And this is actually the window of the shop of that time. It was very refined. I mean, it was a very nice city probably to live in. And then the Barone Beneventano, maybe you have the pictures. Ah, okay, this is so beautiful.
Oh, sorry. Did you want the Barone?
The
Go back to the other.
sì, Barone. I mean, probably if you've been to Carlentini or Lentini, you probably have heard of this name, because I mean he is one of the characters, and he's an unforgotten man in Lentini, still a sort of a venerated. He was one of the biggest and the most powerful landowner, but unlike his son, he was so to say very sympathetic with people, and he was the one who created, I mean, the villa in Lentini, so the public garden, and he actually, the public water and public light, so he introduced all this. So he tried his best to, so to say, to help people with this. He was of course a very wealthy, but to improve the life conditions of people. And the palace they had, it's nowadays it was actually restored, renovated something like 3 or 4 years ago, and you can visit it, and it is probably one of the highlights that it's worth visiting if you are in Lentini. Nowadays it's place for cultural events and exhibitions, like, you know, theater events. It's very nice. And you found, I mean, some guys from they're not direct lineage, but still they have the same name, Beneventano della Corte. They started a wine business on the Etna. I haven't contacted them, I must say. I have always thought about, I mean, sending a message, but I haven't done it yet. And they're producing wine. See.
They're not direct line, you say?
No, because they're not, I mean, he was not his, I mean, grandfather. So it's not direct lineage. They're probably from the brother or the sister.
Okay.
But
I thought it was
anyway,
interesting looking at this book that the Baron published on the economic conditions of Sicily. This was 1894 or something like that.
well, he was
It's
very, very, very important, and he
was
senatore. He was
Ah.
so I mean he played a role in the national in national politics. That's why I mean he was like
and he was part of the Knights of Malta too, because in Siracusa, the Palazzo Beneventano del Bosco are we talking about the same family, right? Is a
it was another lineage. I mean, after it was around the 18th century.
Mhm.
So the root is Beneventano della Corte from Carlentini. And then around 1700, let's say, they started to develop different lineage.
To grow the branches, okay. So the Palazzo
Beneventano del
Scusate.
Bosco in Siracusa and Beneventano della Piana in Ragusa, Scicli, that area. But still
Ma non so se avete notato che a Villasmundo, nella piazza di Villasmundo, c'è la statua del barone Beneventano e la statua del marchese di San Giuliano. Cosa hanno a che fare? Non lo so.
What did she say?
She said that in Villasmundo, in the main square, there is the statue of the Barone Beneventano and the statue of the Marchese di San Giuliano. So means that maybe those noble families, they were related. For sure, they had the land in common or properties that were close by. Maybe they were related through
They were the
wedding.
most important families, like Scamacca, like Gargallo. I mean, the most important families in Siracusa, for example, the Gargallo, they were from Lentini as well.
Priolo Gargallo, per esempio.
And
La città.
I mean, the origin is from Lentini, and then after a while, they actually decided to move to bigger cities.
Yeah.
And
Obviously, it was a nobility
I had
related. Yeah.
I had this image of the Tarocco, which is the oranges, right?
Yes, a variety of oranges.
And you mentioned earlier that that was one of the products that were produced on the farms of the Barone.
no, it was the product. I mean, that's why Lentini is famous, whatever.
Exactly.
And
The oranges, and that's it.
So oranges, lemons, but oranges and all varietals. I mean, so from Catania to Siracusa, so it means that Lentini, Carlentini, Francofonte, this is called the triangle of oranges. And it was actually our area was the biggest, well, up to some decades ago, the biggest exporters of oranges in Europe. I mean, they all came from our area. That's why I'm saying every single family had his own business, but unfortunately, they were not able to, keep up with the time and how the market was developing. Now since a couple of decades, we are actually facing the Spanish competitors, which totally made our market down.
Mio padre, sai che diceva? Che anticamente, quando io ero molto piccola, oppure ancora non ero nata, il bitumen di terra si campava la famiglia. Il bitumen di terra, sai, quando sono 4.000 metri.
Silvana is saying that I mean, with two lands of oranges, you can actually feed your family. My grandfather, from my father's side, well, he didn't have a job. He just had properties. So
Mhm.
that's his job.
They used to say with the 2 acres of land, you can keep the family alive and think about all the interests of the family. Ciao Nuccia. So
Ciao,
was
Silvana.
There wasn't
was
no other
being
job. That was the job.
was being nobility connected with the land. They were landowners, and that wasn't cannot be separated. The
I mean,
property was their power.
everything was focused on land, whether you were the owner or the workers. But I mean, that's why that passion in fighting for it, because with different reasons, but none of the two parties wanted to surrender. But anyway, the time was changing, so there was no other way that for all the landowners that to actually give up, because it was just time changing. It was the new century, and that's it. So well, actually, their power weakened it. So
Yes.
weakened in any way. Anyway, so I mean, that's why I mean I wanted to focus on how that community changed and the protagonists changed with the community through a sort of a path of emancipation. So because towards the end of the book, she will actually realize that she doesn't need a man, whether belonging from one side or the other, but she can be herself. So it's not a man that identifies a woman, right? So you can be, and she will be able to head up and being independent.
So there was a couple of other images here. We left off, I think, with this one here.
Yeah, I mean that one, and then I don't want to bother anymore. The Hôtel des Étrangers, for those who are planning a trip to Sicily and are going to Lentini Carlentini and then Catania or Siracusa, you will enjoy this view. It's one of the most beautiful buildings in Sicily, I think. And this is the advertisement in 1906 in an English magazine. It was sort of an advertisement. And Hôtel des Étrangers, it was one of the biggest hotel in Sicily, and when people came from wherever. And it is exactly where the Fonte, the Aretusa fountain is, so facing the sea, and it is beautiful.
Fountain? Okay.
Yeah,
I
and
thought
the
it was
name.
Interesting here. I thought it was interesting that it's a German man that was the proprietor.
Yeah. And the name is in French, because at the beginning, when the Grand Tour has started as a journey during which all the nobles of Europe, after the discovery of Ercolano and Pompeii, and the books written by Whitman, they wanted to come to Italy to see those beautiful places where time has stopped. So started the neoclassical movement, and Siracusa became a part of this tour, of this trip that the French invented as a first way of having a journey, education, traveling, all in the same time, just for nobles. So seeing that the majority of them, they came from France, we used to call them the strangers. So in Sicilian dialect, when people, they came from abroad in the past, we used to say, generalizing, because they didn't understand if they spoke French, English, or German, they used to say a francisa o francesi, to say they're not Italian. They're not Italian. As far as Marocchino is the one who sells the clothes or wherever on the beach with a darker color of the skin, but they can come from Bangladesh, but we call them from Morocco anyway. So are like adjectives that were obviously sustained by ignorance. So the Hotel of the Strangers was in French, Hotel des Étrangers. And it's still one of the, as Josie was saying, one of the most important buildings where artists, nobles, in the past, all the people visiting Syracuse in the 1800 and 1900, they used to go there. So I'm not so surprised to see a German owner with a French name. And the message
Eleonora,
written in
mia nonna sai che diceva quando c'erano gli stranieri? Sono austriachi.
Cosa?
Austriachi, nel senso che erano austriaci.
Austriaci, that was a mix between Austrian and being a witch, I don't know how to say.
Giù si sta ridendo perché la conosce questa parola.
Did you see
Io non l'ho
who
mai
was this
sentita.
Marino guy? Who was this Marino
Marino,
man?
so Francesco Marino in the book is, well, so I definitely pictured him and more handsome, because I mean, of course, I mean, he was the one.
I was wondering.
No, just to tell you. Of course, in the book, it must be beautiful. I mean, handsome. I mean, otherwise, I mean, it doesn't work, right? And so this is Francesco Marino, probably. I mean, he was in the book. He is younger, let's say, but still, he's one of the biggest Sicilian Unionists. He even wrote the Sicilian Parliament chart. So I mean, it did a great career in the union and in politics. And her daughter is still alive. I mean, she's in her 80s, and she was at the presentation I had, first presentation I had in Lentini. She was very touched by the fact that I mean, her father was still remembered. And so I mean, she brought some pictures, and just one thing, that very little thing to say. After that presentation, I was in a restaurant in Lentini, and one of the youngest siblings from Marino, he's a young lawyer in his 30s. He approached me and said, "But did you know that story?" I said, "Which story?" I said, "We didn't want to mention this, I mean, while my grandmother was there, because it still hurts her." I said, "I don't know what story you're referring to." And he said, "Well, my great-grandfather had a woman for all his life that was not our great-grandmother, and she was a woman from probably outside Lentini, and she was a teacher living in an apartment." And I said, "Oh my God, I didn't know that," but it probably was something so common at that time that well, I actually, well, how do you say, I guess well. And so there was that story, and the guy was so, to say, sensitive, and said he didn't want to mention this while his grandmother was talking to me. But well, you see, in fiction there's some truth anyway. So,
Exactly.
so we know that he had a lover for real for all his life.
Wow. I have an actor for him when we will make the movie. Francesco Arca.
Now,
So I want to thank everyone for being patient, but of course, I want to thank especially Juicy Shaka for
thank you for
sharing a
listening.
little bit about her novel, and it was so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now that you can take your mutes off, you can ask questions, and we can have a rip-roaring discussion about Amore e di Rabbia.
Oh, that's so nice, thank you.
Invece io volevo raccontare, se non vi dispiace, una storia, Giusy, che sicuramente non sa, o può darsi che la sa. Nel 1970, tra Lentini e Carlentini, è successo un fatto molto particolare.
If I want to share a story very shortly, happened between Lentini and Carlentini in 1970.
Io avevo 11 anni.
She was 11.
Era il periodo di elezione. Sai che tra Lentini e Carlentini c'era un forte movimento di sinistra, c'erano molti comunisti.
And
allora-
there were elections at the time, and in the 70s there were all the movements coming from the left of the communism.
Sono venuti a Carlentini, è venuto un signore che tu conosci, un avvocato neri che faceva parte del movimento sociale di destra e ha fatto un comizio in piazza. Però non è venuto solo lui, ma sono venuti i giocatori del rugby di Catania, che erano degli omaccioni enormi, con le catene in mano. Io mi ricordo che ero uscita per comprare le sigarette a mia sorella, tornando a casa ho visto questo signore in via Cavour, dove adesso mio marito ha il negozio, che saliva con queste grosse catene in mano. Proprio l'ho visto con i miei occhi, me lo ricordo. È andato in piazza per provocare la popolazione che loro sapevano che era di sinistra. E quindi hanno cominciato
Ad avere una
botte,
rissa, ma
una rissa bestiale.
Io non ti ho
Perché
sentito
loro-
per un attimo, questo Neri era fascista?
Era l'avvocato
Di
Neri
destra.
era di destra, perché il fascismo
Okay.
non esisteva
So
più.
she
C'è
reminds
stato-
aspetta, se no non ci sei.
sì,
She saw so we are 1970 and there was this lawyer from Lentini, his name is Neri, and he
Molto,
was
ma è
from the
molto-
opposite side, so on the right, inside extremely right, that is the opposite of the left. So in Italy, I know it's not like in the United States, but extremely left is communism, extremely right is going to be fascism, but obviously we don't talk about that nowadays. We are in the 70s when those two sections were even more active, let's say. And this guy was on the opposite side of the majority. He came to have a speech in the square, followed by rugby players from Catania, were huge men with the big, gigantic chains in iron in their hands. So, Fred. So Silvana went to the square to buy the cigarette for her sister, and she saw them coming toward the square. E che è successo?
Dopo è successo che è finita la rissa, è stata la rissa.
And at the end, they
Anche-
got fight, obviously.
Dopodiché cioè, questi qua cercavano di andare via da Carlentini e allora si poteva andare via solo dalla vecchia strada, diciamo, si doveva passare per forza da Lentini. Per cui quelli di Lentini furono avvisati e li hanno bloccati in un certo punto. In piazza cosa è successo? Che hanno preso le macchine di questi qua di Catania e gliele hanno bruciate in piazza a Carlentini. Questo episodio, insomma, fu molto particolare.
So they got a
abbastanza-
fight and seen that at the time the only way to get out from Carlentini was the old street that nowadays connects Carlentini with Lentini through, let's say, where we can see the Etna. So it's the northern side of the hill. It didn't exist the side where now we have the Park Omaha, or where there is the archaeological area at the extremely end of the city. So that was the only way to get out, and that street at one point has to go through Lentini. So people from Lentini, they got some message from people in Carlentini to block those people, and they burned all their cars of the people from Catania. So it was a big fight in the 70s. And Silvana still remember, ma ci sono stati feriti, morti?
No, per fortuna no,
Nobody
però
died
non è
at the
stata una
time.
cosa banale, diciamo. Che poi
Nobody
è passata
died, è passato in sordina.
Christy, I
dalla
have a
notte.
question for you. You mentioned that there were several people that were shot in the piazza.
Even kids, yeah.
Yeah, and you said that there is a list of names. Can you help me
That's
find that list of
That's a
names?
delicate question because about those names, Giussi, sei qua?
Right? See, well, but even the date of the fact itself was not sure, was not certain, because some people said it was July 1922, so just before the fascism was established, because fascism is, and then a few months later.
Sì, se Silvana,
And
if you know
so-
if you know something about this episode, feel free. Yes, Silvana.
Sì, Silvana Perucci
No,
sta parlando.
Nuccia. No,
Yes,
così non vi
so
Certo, lei forse si ricorda cosa è a saputo
the
dopo.
episode
Però-
that Silvana has just told dates back to the time when Francesco Guercio, il sindaco
Era il
contadino,
sindaco.
e the mayor, the peasant mayor, was ruling Carlentini. And Carlentini at the time was a very calm city, because the people considered that sort of rule, the communist rule, the proper one. And it was what they wanted. So around the towns, especially in Catania, of course, the fascist movement wanted to provoke the quiet living of our little Carlentini. And this episode is told in the book that the son of Francesco Guercio, Giuseppe Guercio,
Quindi ce l'hai in questo io lo
has
devo comprare.
recently, yes, there is also this episode. And there are, in that case, there are some details. I was very young to remember. Silvana said that she was
Io
11,
avevo 11
but I
anni,
was
tu sei-
told, yes,
tu
but
sei
I
più
was
piccola.
told by my father, and probably that was the only time when people really had fear about this political strife, this political oppositions, and it was a very
I would like to add a little
very sad
thing. Now we're
episode.
talking with American friends, where in the United States they daily listen about people shooting and people fighting, the crazy guy who arrives in the middle of the street or whatever. So I wanted to tell you how shocking is for us to mention an episode that happened in 1922 and another one that happened in 1970. So in
Immagino.
120 years, just two episodes, and we're still shocked and talking about it.
Eleonora,
So
io ho
maybe
detto, ho
maybe
raccontato
find
questo
it
episodio.
stupid. Può essere anche stupido per una società come quella americana dove queste cose succedono ogni giorno e
Per
noi
noi
siamo...
no.
Per
But
noi
Eleonora,
è una
there is
cosa
another one.
impossibile.
There is
Yeah,
another
it's like
one. There is another
something
episode which happened. There is another episode which happened in 1966, which was about some fighting to get a right salary for the oranges. Before we're talking about the
Yeah.
oranges.
Usually
there
our
was a
land is,
business
you
in
know,
our
is
triangle.
quiet.
And in that occasion, the mayors of the two towns, Francesco Guercio and Marilli,
Marilli, sì, me lo ricordo.
were at the head of the demonstration. And at a certain point, the barons and all the feudal, all the lands at the time, because this is the label that we can give, had the police on their part. And during this demonstration, which started in Carlentini, Lentini, and ended at the railway station in Lentini, there was the part of the owner of the land who wanted to stop this request from the peasants. So they started. At first, they shoot not to kill, but then they tried even to make them go away, and the mayors, the two mayors of the town and the peasants answered just throwing stones. And there was also a woman, Graziella Vistre, who went up to a popular headquarter in Lentini, Soprafiera, and called all the women and children and told them, they are killing your husbands at the railway station. So lots of women and children went to the railway station, and
In 1996.
1996, yes.
Wow.
And they stopped this sort of fighting lying on the railway station. It was at the end, the revolt was successful because the peasants in Lentini gained their, I think it could be, I can't remember precisely, but it could be a couple of liras in their salary, not more than that. But on that example, some years later in Avola, the peasants in Avola demonstrated and were killed.
Mm-hmm.
So this
Okay,
is
so going back to the book,
history
going back
of
to 1922 for just a second. I'm just looking at on the inside cover of the book, there's kind of a summary, and I don't know if you have this version or not, Juicy, but it says Sicilia, Luglio 1922, Allentini, Centro Agricolo. Do you have those words handy?
See?
Do you read those words and translate those to us?
Translate, I mean, you mean translating or reading?
Well,
Translating simultaneously while you're reading in Italian, you translate in your
read the Italian
in English, and you
tell
pronounce
us
in
what
English.
it means in English. Yeah.
Okay. So Sicily, July 1922 in Lentini, agricultural center in the province of Siracusa, below the breath of Mount Etna. A bloody fact took place and was then covered by dust. Among the protagonists, Maria Giudice, a very, so to say, fervente, come posso dire, lively.
Very sparkling.
Fervent. I see the word fervent, and then
passionate, sì. Passionate unionist from Lombard origin, so northern Italy, and she was mother of famous writer Giuliarda Sapienza. She was this famous Italian writer. She was translated. I mean, she's very famous, and you can find her books in English for sure. And I mean, and it was that woman. So many coincidences. And just before the strong establishment of a fascism in the town, there's a very tense class fighting, so social fighting between the noble landowners, who were all, I mean, they had their sort of a headquarter in the palace of Beneventano, and the workers. In the middle, so on the border of these two worlds, there's a woman, Amelia Di Stefano, who, I mean, a woman, so fuori posto, I mean, in the wrong place. She's never centered. She's never at the right place. And a very old Sicilian saying says that a bird in a cage doesn't sing out of love, but out of rage. And this is true. Just let me tell you, this is one of our most popular and still used Sicilian saying. We say, Acendo una gaggia, non canta a pamure, ma canta per raggia. Which makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, bird in a cage. If you can imagine, I mean, it cannot sing out of love. But that's what we want to tell us, but probably sings out of rage. And that's it. That's it. I mean, do you want me to go on?
That's good. Just, you know, to get a flavor, it's July 1922. It's in Lentini, which of course is an agricultural center surrounded by orange groves. And the landowners are in conflict with the workers, it sounds like, at that time.
This is the context.
Yes.
This is, but I mean, that is our.
Now you have to translate it in English and it's already solved, you see?
Allora, gli episodi,
Yeah,
scusa, gli
we are
episodi
looking
che ho
forward to the
raccontato,
translation.
scusa Nick,
Yes.
gli episodi che abbiamo
So-
raccontato io e Silvana Peruccello non fanno altro che confermare quello che ha
Yeah.
detto Giusy, che praticamente
Yeah,
da noi, Carlentini e Lentini, c'è stato sempre un grosso movimento di lavoratori per avere,
Yeah,
per
the
ottenere
episodes
delle
told
agevolazioni.
by Silvana and Silvana are confirming that Lentini and Carlentini, they have been always two cities with a strong community of workers united, fighting for their rights, strong people, brave, including the women. So this is our DNA. This is the land where we come from. So we don't have to be surprised if some of them decided to leave and face the unknown, crossing the ocean and settling themselves in Omaha, United States, all over. Are we dedicating a little bit of time to genealogy? Because I know that there are people here for the first time and maybe they were craving, but we had this special guest tonight that is always our special guest. But what do you think, Nick? Obviously,
I see
we want
Claire.
to talk about Halloween.
Claire, you got to talk a little bit earlier, but
Um,
do you want to talk a little bit more, Claire, and tell us about your family tree?
Sure. My family tree, I know that my great grandfather, Vincenzo Fedoni, came over first to follow his brother. I don't have that in front of me right now. Later, he was followed by his wife, Luciana, and her maiden name was Scamperino. And he came over with 3 of her children, one of which was my Nana, Mariana. And they proceeded to have, I believe, 8 more children here in the United States. And I know that she married a Zarbano, and that's about all I know at this point.
Nick, if you want to bring up my tree, I have that whole family that you just described.
You're kidding.
Nope.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Sorry, people are crazy here in the street. Still, I'm in Modica, I'm not in Carlentini. Jim is one of our mother tree, and he has more than 50,000 people. So,
Okay, so give me a name, Jim.
Vincenzo
find things.
Fedoni. And 1872 is his birth year.
I want to
so
thank Juicy
1972
again.
Carlentini.
Yes.
And thank you so much, Juicy.
Yes.
It was interesting.
Oh, where am I? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know. Maybe I will be going in something like 10 minutes because I need to pick up my daughter. She's Halloween party somewhere here. So.
Well, yeah, a lot of our
nice.
friends are busy now with Halloween too. Makes sense.
So just in that case, I will just write in the chat.
Va bene, ciao Gioia.
So, okay, so let me get Claire back. Okay, Claire.
Yes.
So this is Vincenzo. He was born in Carlentini in 1872, and his parents were Sebastiano and Sebastiana Militi. And
I think here in how we pronounce it, Miletti.
Yeah, but
Mileti.
Militi is the right way.
Yeah, we're trying to convert y'all back to the original pronunciation.
Good.
We try. Ci proviamo.
So Jim does a really excellent job of sourcing his tree as well. But I don't see the Nishita number on this one, Jim. I guess that was one you couldn't find, or we got the matrimonia.
Might have been
number.
because where did he? No, he was buried in Nebraska.
Yes.
So I don't know. I probably haven't gone that far. I
Oh,
should
wow.
say,
In Adams County, Nebraska. So tell us about that. How did he end up being buried in the Ingleside Cemetery in Adams County, Nebraska, Claire?
Well, there was a incident within the home in which Vincenzo and my great grandmother had some marital strife, and he shot her.
Oh no!
And I'm sorry, I don't know this word. Shot. Oh, sparato.
So
Wow.
it shows that he was in the hospital at Hastings State in 1940.
Yes, he was committed.
Dice, come mai è finito in questo cimitero questa persona? Perché è inusuale per noi. È in un altro quartiere. Dice che
He was a worker at Skinner Macaroni. So
c'è stato uno sparo.
we're trying to do a project on all the workers of Skinner Macaroni because there were so many Italians. So I'll have to add him to our list.
Yes.
Yeah. Macaroni factory. He did spend some time in the shops, it looks like, at the railroad shops.
He had a son, Luciano, that ended up also working for the Union Pacific.
Let's see. Okay, so he must have been Lewis in his later life. I see a Lewis Fedoni.
They were all forced, like a lot of them, to take on American names.
Right. So have that in this particular tree. But as Eleonora was mentioning, we have what we call the master tree here with Jim, and he's been so gracious to share it with all of us. And we use it as a basis for our research.
That's
and
wonderful.
For finding your cousins in Sicily.
That would be great, because I think what we're planning is at the end of 24, beginning of 25, as a family to go over.
Okay, so we have some time to get ready, but yeah, we want to start working on that. So we do it for free here in these sessions, but it's on a time available basis.
Sure.
There's other people that are kind of competing for the attention as well.
No, that's fine. I'll ask my youngest sister, who's better at this than I. She has started one, but I'll have her go out and kind of, hopefully next week, listen with us and help on what she knows as well.
Let's say that it's like the episodes of a telenovelas, you know, we add the 5 minutes and then little piece every time. It's like the movie that keeps going, and after 5 years I still add the pieces in my puzzle of my family as well. So it's all about discovering all together.
Yeah, it's a never-ending project.
It's a never-ending process.
30 years.
Well, it took me till retirement. It took me till retirement to get started on this. So we're very new into it, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, plus we are always between 20, 25 people. So as I always say, 50 eyes are better than 2.
I agree.
So sometimes we
So yeah,
open.
to the extent that you have information already or that you can get it from relatives, if you can send it to me, then I'm also building kind of a master tree as well of the people that have been part of this Zoom or that have worked with me as a client. I add them to the Italians of Omaha, Carlentini and beyond tree that I have. And then I can tell relationships, you know, who's your cousins here and who's your cousins over there.
You send out
So-
emails when you get new information.
I'm
Me?
sorry.
Nick, do you send out emails when you get updated information?
Do I send out emails
Yeah.
to,
When
I
you-
mean, I send out emails to the individuals involved. Yes.
I used to do it through Ancestry. I guess you don't do that anymore.
No, I don't send out emails via Ancestry.
You used to. I don't know.
There used to, I know you've raised this in the past. You used to be able to set it so you get notifications anytime
Right.
something is added to my tree.
Right.
And for some reason that's gone away and I don't know why.
Hmm.
And I'm not quite sure
Yeah,
how
I
to
still
fix
get
it.
them from Jim once in a while.
Yeah.
Well, I update stuff all the time.
I get them once in a
Ragazzi, io
while.
vi saluto e ancora devo andare.
Buonanotte
Martedì.
Silvana, ciao Gioia.
Ciao,
Thank
buonanotte.
you.
Ciao.
Ciao Silvana.
Silvana Siciliani.
I've got a couple of questions for Claire
Okay.
Okay.
because there was it looks like there was a Samuel Salvatore.
Yes. Yes, my Uncle Sam.
Okay. So I don't have a birthday for him, but I'll probably find it later.
His Robert, I know, Bob, who I met on a couple occasions. I know that he was a policeman for Omaha, and he also has been very active on Ancestry, according to my sister Carmen.
Okay. Let's see. There was two boys that look like that they were born in 1916.
1916?
One in April.
Yeah,
and
there's
one in
a
December.
John William Fedone and a Dominic Fedone, both in 1916.
I know
they
that
were born. One is born in April and the other in December.
possibly, I know that
Both
both of them
dates is wrong.
exist. I think they called John, I know that there's a Giovanni, and Dominic was a separate person who died when he was 12 or 13.
Yep, in 1931.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I need to excuse myself for a minute, so I'm going to stop sharing so that you guys can chat while I.
Okay.
And then, was there a set of twins?
No,
Paul and Joseph?
no, Joseph is a single person. I think there again, he might have been like Giuseppe or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they start talking about him as Joe. He's the same.
Yeah, but there's a Phyllis that I have here too.
She was Felipa.
Yeah.
And they converted her name to Phyllis.
Right.
So
this-
Claire, your great grandparents, they came with 3 kids and then they made 8 more in Omaha.
Yes.
So at the end there were 11 kids.
Yes.
Yes.
But the problem here was in Omaha, a lot of times with their Italian given names, the schools and how they went forward was they Americanized the first name. So my Nana, instead of Mariana, always went by Mary.
Mariana is the Italian for Anna, and Maria is the Italian for Mary.
But
So-
she went by Mary.
Yeah.
And then her older sister, Sebastiana, went by Betsy.
Yeah, completely different.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I've seen, you know, my great grandmother was a Sebastiana, but her American name was Christina.
Yeah, so you just don't know. And a lot of times.
And then
So-
there's a
So
few
Claire-
Ellie's out there.
The only way we can get to some alive relatives is to go to see the siblings of your great grandparents, because their kids, they came all with them. They didn't left behind anybody, right?
Right.
So your grandmother or grandfather siblings, they were all there and saw all the generations all the way down below. So at
So we'll
this
have to
point, we are looking for the Fidone and the Scamporino.
Yes, and Zarbano.
And okay, Zarbano. One of my great friend is Zarbano, is a drummer, but we have to figure out if it's the branch from Carlentini, if it's the branch from Lentini, and if you have pictures, can be helpful as well to create the
Pictures
cost.
Most of the family pictures are gone.
From Carlentini, the pharmacy.
Yes.
right?
The disbanding of the family after the incident was very sad.
Which incident?
When my great grand
Shoot.
yes.
So taking it to the next generation beyond Vincenzo, his father was Sebastiano. So Vincenzo's brothers and sisters would be Letterina, Maria, Domenico, Giovanni, Giuseppe, and Concetta. And the ones that lived well into the 20th century are the ones that would most likely have relatives. And so Vincenzo is the one, is yours. This
Yes.
one only lived to 1901, so that's not too good. Maria,
Letterina, never seen as name.
yeah,
Letterina,
interesting.
Giussi, Letterina, Fidone.
Ma come
So
no,
Maria Fedone was married to Salvatore Mangiamelli, and she,
There is a misspelling, or there should be with the T rather than the D. Salvatore, Salvatore.
That's the Spanish version with the D.
yeah,
Sì.
there's the way that the record keepers write their T's sometimes look like D's, but they're always T's. Anyway, so these Mangiamellis might be related, and here's a Giuseppe that lived to 2002. That's
And
So
Nick,
rise the
I have
hand that
all the
was-
for Lentini. I have all these booklets from 1900 on.
So this is one that is your relative that is buried in the cemetery in Lantini, or in Carlentini rather.
Who was not a Mangiamelli in the family, raise the hand. There is always a Mangiamelli. Raise the hand.
Now this is new to me, the Benjamin.
Yeah, she's a cousin of your Vincenzo. So
Wow, this lady was almost 100 years old.
this is somebody that we would want to find her family in Carlentini.
Good longevity.
And Jim has been actively adding the information from the graves to his tree, which is very helpful to us when we're trying to find living relatives.
Absolutely.
The Dones are from Lentini, not Carlentini, right?
No, Carlentini, that's what my Nana always said. Carlentini.
But then I guess the Scamparinos were from Lentini.
Okay.
So I might have some files on them from the 1900s. I'll have to check.
Thanks, Jim.
That's Dean.
This is Dean you're talking to here.
Oh,
Okay, so Maria Fedoni was one of the siblings of Vincenzo. And Maria Fedoni married Mangiamelli. And then they had a daughter that lived till 2002. So let's see if Domenico has any children that lived that long. Just the one, Sebastiana, and well, she could be alive. What we need to do is find out more about her. Domenico. We looked at Maria Giovanni Fedoni. No, he went to Omaha, so he's no help. Giuseppe Fedoni. December 1960, so she was in the US as well. So she's no help. She was married to Antonino Cocchiara. Anyway, that's kind of the process.
okay. Just keep working up the tree.
You work up and then you start to work back down again until you find living relatives.
Okay. We'll start doing that, my sister and I.
Yeah, there are some potentials at least.
Yes, that would
Where
be
do
great.
you live, Claire?
I live in Omaha.
Okay. Just like a bunch of us.
There is a bunch of us. I as I've gotten older, had the more time to get into this and understand that most of us living here in Omaha, our relatives did come from Carlentini. It's amazing how over the years, how large this population has given. Our last names have changed a lot, but that heritage is still here.
Okay, so Vita Hansmeyer, if you would turn your microphone back on for us, please.
How's that?
I'm going to bring your tree up and then maybe you can just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I was born in Maine. My father was born in Brooklyn. His parents came over from Calatafimi, got married in Brooklyn and had 7 children there. I was recently in Sicily this month, and I went to the municipal building and was able to, the small town, so I was able to, thanks to the ladies in the office, knew a living cousin of mine. So she picked up the phone and she called her at work and we met and we spent the afternoon together. So that was just, I didn't even know I had a living cousin still in Calatafimi, but so that was awesome. Now I'm trying to get into my grandmother's side, which I did not have time to do while I was there. So I'm looking for my grandmother's parents, and I thought she was born in Calatafimi as well. My cousin told me that our great grandparents on the Girardi side were buried in the ground because I couldn't find them at the cemetery. They're in the ground somewhere there, and there's no headstones or anything. So it was very interesting. Anyway, so now I'm just exploring it. And I as well started this when I retired in 2017. So little by little, just picking away at information that I can find. Any help I can get, I truly appreciate.
According to public records, you live in Anchorage, Alaska. Tell us about Alaska. and how you
Alaska.
got there.
Okay, I was born and raised in Maine, like I said, and graduated from University of Maine, the nursing program. And at that time in 1979, they were paying nurses $5 an hour in Maine. So I moved to Boston with some friends. And then we all of us gals joined traveling nurse. So my bucket list, seeing as I had never gotten to the West Coast at all, being born and raised in Maine, my bucket list, of course, was Alaska and Hawaii and Sicily. So way back then, I was able to do an assignment in Hawaii. And then I thought, well, before I get back to Maine, I'm going to just hop on over to Alaska since it was so close. And that was in 1982. And I just came for a visit. And now I'm here with my husband and 2 children who own their own homes. And we've had a good life. So it was a good choice for me.
Maybe you're the only Sicilian in Alaska.
Maybe.
As I told you when I met you.
Yes, I wish I had a community, but that's why I felt such a belonging while I was in Sicily. It was just fantastic, but not up here.
Okay, so tell us how you met Eleonora.
Eleonora, I met through, I did the tour group through OAT, and Eleonora was one of our tour leaders.
Was her tour guide. Yes,
Tour-
in Ragusa.
Yeah,
Ragusa or no, we did Ragusa.
we did Ragusa. Yes.
Mhm.
So did she sing for you?
Yes, she did, and I have it all on video, and I sent her
Don't
copies.
say to the other travelers, otherwise they want me to sing all the time. And trust me, they don't pay me more.
I love it.
We have fun. We had a lot of fun. And actually, I connected with Vita before she came to Sicily because Isabella, her tour leader, she's a great friend of mine. As soon as Vita told her about her story, Isabella said, connect with Eleonora, she can help you. And so we started talking, and then she told me about the good, I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh.
The good, that's Modica tonight. That's, I don't know why. But she told me about the great experience in Calatafimi. And she met an alive cousin. She came to visit her. And what I was wondering is that Calatafimi is close to Segesta. So means that people, they went through Palermo and then Ellis Island and then Brooklyn, correct? While Castellammare, when they went to Brooklyn too. So I wonder, in Brooklyn must be a very strong Siculo-American community from the western part, the province of ciao Giussi, ciao tesoro bello.
Ciao.
Happy Halloween for your daughter. Give a big hug to Rebecca.
Grazie Nick, grazie a tutti.
Ciao Gioia. So they must have a stronger roots from western part, and I wonder if they still have I don't know, festivals going on. Maybe in Alaska, I understand that maybe you're the only one, but what about the previous steps, let's say Maine or Brooklyn? Do you still have connections with the family, cousins? I don't know.
I do have some living cousins still in New York. But all of my father's side has passed.
I see.
Him and all his gone. Yes.
Yeah, the majority of us are located in Omaha. So that's another interesting line.
In Omaha, they celebrate the festival of Santa Lucia every year, which is the patron saint of Carlentini. So do you know the patron saint of Calatafimi?
I don't.
Me neither. Should be San Alberto. We are in the province of Trapani. Is very popular. San Alberto, San Cataldo. Let me see. because Calatafimi is an interesting city because it's Calatafimi Segesta was a Greek city. Actually, was a Elim city, and then the Elimi, they made a beautiful temple. There was the Acropolis, where there is still a beautiful theater, but that's in Segesta. And then Calatafimi is Arab, because in the toponomastic in Sicily, all the cities starting with the Calta or Calat, that's an Arab root that means fortress. So Calatafimi, Calta Girone, Cala Scibetta, Calta Bellotta. There's so many. Yeah, means fortress in Arab. So those are cities. Those cities with that root means that they have been founded in the Middle Age, around the 9th century AD. Calatafimi. Sorry, I didn't want too much info, you know, when I go
No,
like
That's wonderful. I mean, I learned something new today. So anyway, we are at the end of time together, ladies and gentlemen. And so now is the time for us to say ciao tutti.
Ciao tutti.
Ciao tutti.
Va bene. So happy Halloween, everybody. Enjoy the All Saints tomorrow. And see you
Yes,
next
All
week.
Saints Day tomorrow.
Yes.
And Giorno di Morte is the next day, right?
Maybe next time we can talk about Calatafimi and suggest the city itself. There are so many beautiful things.
My
Wow.
grandfather's birthday was November 1st.
Whose?
My grandfather.
Oh, wow. Yeah, my grandfather was October 30th. So we're in the same neighborhood there.
I think that their festival in Calatafimi is San Michele. So Vita, you will tell us if you have a lot of Michael in your family.
Huh, we don't. Interesting.
You don't? Okay,
No, we have
not
a lot of
Catholic.
Vitas. I have a lot of cousins, which I'd like to learn where that name originated
I will
from.
double check better because I'm reading random. Okay, maybe we will talk about Calatafimi next time.
Okay, sounds great. Good to see you.
Prossima settimana. Next
Ciao
week.
tutti.
We'll see you next week.
Buona
Send me a
giornata.
message.
Thank you, everyone.
Tell me what you know. Tell me what you want to know, and we'll work on it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
your time.
Bye-bye.
I'll send you the link to the recording.
Thank you, Joanne.